There we go. Hello, 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 and good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome. My name is Phillip Ramos. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm super excited. I absolutely. So let me say this. I hope you're excited tonight to learn to hear from a great friend of mine, her story, what she's been on. So for those of you that don't know, one of the things that not one of, a couple different things that fascinate me. And number one is health. I'm absolutely fascinated by health. I'm a certified Gallup strengths coach, and I'm fascinated by what makes people amazing, what makes them unique. I remember a good friend of mine, we were talking one day about strengths, right? And this idea of who we are, our greatest potential, and what if we can incorporate this with our health? And what could we ultimately become? And we started talking about this different idea of, our greatest potential. And I've said this before, my son used to watch this show. It's called Ninjago. And there were these little Lego ninjas that were running around trying to reach their true potential. And they'd unlock these powers, and they'd have these special gifts that they do. And their uniforms would change, and they'd get these gold weapons. And it was so cool. It was all about them in search for their true potential. And so one of the things I love about specifically when it comes time to health is I'm a big believer that our true potential is really on the other side of our best healthy selves. Raise your hand. For those of you that are on tonight, raise your hand if you somewhat agree with that. Like, do you see yourself be reaching your greatest potential just on the other side of your health journey, right? Your greatest health journey. I know for me, it's huge. It's that direct correlation has always been something that I've realized, I've paid attention to. I've noticed that on the other side of, right, where our struggles, our disappointments, our inadequacies is where we're at here. We know what we're capable of. I mean, I think we all know that. We know that I know I can do this. I know I can do that. Yet we have these walls and these things that get in our way. And one of them, for many people is health. Health is a big one. And so this topic, this subject, I am absolutely enthralled by, I'm fascinated by, and a lot because of my own health journey. Some of you, for those of you who don't know, my health journey has been a roller coaster for myself, understanding how my body works and what are the best things. And over the course of the last year, I've talked about mitigating glucose spikes. I've talked about, understanding, utilizing proper supplementation, and my health has dramatically changed. 100-fold. The person I was when I turned 44, okay, is completely different than the person I was when I turned 45. Turning 45 was the greatest, I think, year of my life because I felt I could feel that big of a difference based on these ideas and these concepts. Okay. So I hope you're here to enjoy, to learn, and to get to know, other than my own story, other people's stories and what makes them special and makes them unique. Okay. So with that being said, the way I've structured this is I used to do interviews with people based on their strengths, and that was a lot of fun. I had a great time. I imagine ultimately my dream, okay, I'm just telling you my dream. Podcasts, you guys ever listen to podcasts or YouTube channels where someone's interviewing people on their book or their health or something, right? That's what I'd love to do. I love communication is, my number 4 strength. I love talking. I love listening. I love asking questions. I'm fascinated by people's stories. And so this is ultimately what I love to do is talk to people about their health journey. So if you enjoy tonight, and if you yourself would like to do the same thing, and maybe you have a story you'd like to share or something that has dramatically changed your life and you want other people to know about it, I'd love to, let's do something like this. Let's set something like this up. Okay. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring on my good friend, Jeanie, if you can raise your hand for me. And I'll go ahead and unmute you. And okay, excellent. So we're going to bring Jeanie on here. Give her a chance. Now, for those of you that don't know, Jeanie is a good friend of mine. I first met her. We went through some self-development courses together. And I'll tell you what, she was the gal in the room that you knew. she was there to make ripples. I mean, she was cheering up in the room. She's woo, she did this classic yell, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Jeanie. I could hear her, even though I wasn't even sitting near her. She's incredibly dynamic. She's an action author. She's a global speaker. So she's incredible in more ways than one. And I have, as you know, I've known her for a couple of years now, and I've watched her and her own, her business and her process. And, her health took a little spin, took a little spiral. And over the course of the last, I don't know, and she'll tell you probably months, we'll get into specifics. It is dramatically changed for her. And I'm super excited to have her kind of share some of that in her own words and what that's looked like for her. So let's go ahead and bring Jeanie on. Give me 1 second here. Let me see. Jeanie, if I allow you to talk, can you turn on your camera, or do I need to, can you, hold on, or do I turn you into a panelist? 1 second. Let me see if I just promote you to a panelist. There we go. Okay, can you turn on your camera and unmute yourself there?
Yep, I'm doing that right now.
I love it.
Okay, it's not turning on. Hang on, you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
I am not stopping you. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. Oh, I think if I make you a co-host, let's do that. I'll just make you a co-host. Okay. I think I forgot to change the setting, but so if I make you a co-host, you'll be able to. There we go. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing really good. Thank you for the introduction. That was awesome.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, there's so many different things that I'm like, okay, what questions do I want to ask? How do I want to word this? And then I realized I get into it and I'm like, oh, wait, okay, let me have some type of intro. I get so excited. I get going. There's certain things I forget, but welcome. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Philip. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Good. You look fantastic.
Thank you. Oh, I had a friend of mine the other day tell me that I look 10 years younger than when she saw me just the other day. And well, it was September 15th when she saw me, and then she saw me again just the other day. She's like, you look 10 years younger. Wow. And I was like, well, thank you. I'll accept that.
Right. Thank you. And yes, I will. Yes.
Thank you.
I love it. Well, so that other people get to know. I know we people that asked me for this recording. In fact, I had one gal that I hadn't heard back from in quite some time that was like, "Oh my gosh, are you? This is a great idea. I totally want to watch stuff like this." And I'm like, "Okay, good. Maybe we're onto something here, right?" So with that being said, let the people that are watching this, people that are on live here, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about maybe what where your health was, what happened, like give us a perspective, share your story with us.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to 2018. Okay. November of 2018, October, November, right in there. And I got introduced to doTERRA, and I was like, okay, this is cool, we'll try this. And as you said in my introduction, I'm a pretty high energy person. I've had people actually offer to hire me to come to their comedy shows so I can liven up the audience and stuff.
I love it.
So I bring a lot of energy when I'm in the audience, and I bring a lot of energy just in life because I love life and I love what God has given me. And so in 2018, I got introduced to doTERRA, and I took the vitamins and didn't sleep for 2 days.
I remember that. I remember you telling my wife that. That's funny.
So it was like high octane fuel, and I just took off. I got so much done. It was incredible. But then I was like, I should probably sleep. This is probably not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I went back to a half a dose and started using it, slowly worked myself into it and used a full dose. And it's been incredible. Then COVID happened. And as you said, I'm a global speaker, international speaker and author, two-time best-selling author, and I'm working on my third book. And all of a sudden COVID happened. And everything was gone. And I had an engagement in Ireland scheduled. And for a long time, I was frustrated by that. I was like, I really wanted to go, a free trip to Ireland. Are you kidding me? Right? And then I had a mentor tell me, well, you could have got stuck there. And I was like, whoa, total perspective shift, just bam. And then I just came from gratitude. Thank you, Lord. I really wanted to go to Ireland, but I didn't want to live there.
Right.
And so it was just this huge perspective shift. But I was struggling in shifting from in-person events to online events. And I did not make a smooth transition with that. And because of that, my business was hurt. And my husband's business was also hurt at that time. He has a trucking. We had our own authority. He hauled goods all over the country. And so his business was hurt as well. And so in 2021, we went back into the workforce, both of us did. And, we were doing okay, not great, but we were struggling some. And so, as life happens, it happens. And I went in December of last year, so December 2022, I went in for my annual checkup, and I told the doctor, I have some dizziness. I just don't feel real well. And he said, it'll probably go away. If it doesn't, let me know. And so in January, I called him and I scheduled an appointment for January 12th. And I went in and I said, it's not getting better, it's gotten worse. And that started a avalanche of doctor's appointments, testing. They tested my vision, they tested my hearing, they tested my balance, they did blood tests, they did an MRI. I mean, I could go on and on with all the things that they tested. And it was rough. My dizziness continued to get worse. I started getting nauseous. I would lay down to try to get some relief, and it would feel like I was falling off the bed. When I was walking down the hall, I'd have to run my hand along the wall so I wouldn't run into it. I couldn't leave my house without holding on to somebody. I couldn't drive, I'm a pretty active person. I would walk. No, I didn't run. I used to run in the Army. When I got out of the Army, I was like done with that. But I used to, walk 4 or 5 miles a day, no problem. And now I couldn't even get out of my house.
You brought up a couple different things. Like you started, you talked about, of course, what COVID did change your guys' business. You talked about how you were high energy, and now you're, physically incapable of doing just the basic things. So it isn't just about what we physically feel. It also affects us emotionally, right? It also affects our demeanor. It affects our hope. It affects all these things that sometimes when we talk about health, right? It's just one word that we often people will say, oh, I have a 6-pack or I don't have a 6-pack, and that determines our health, right? Right. Or I have X amount of weight on the scale versus non-amount of weight on the scale. And that's how we determine health. But it's so great because, and this is one of the reasons why I love your story, is because not part of what you're describing isn't just something physically you're going through. As I'm listening to all this, I'm like, I'm heartbroken. Like I'm feeling it with you. I know this is feeling what it must be like physically, but it must be like emotionally at the same time, right?
Yeah. Well, and I had to rely on other people for basic stuff. And so here I am, this mother of adult children. Yeah, they're adults, but I'm still a mom, right? And they're having to drive me to my doctor's appointments, or they're having to drive me, they're having to do the grocery shopping, things like that. And that was really difficult for me. I had my first out of the house paying job when I was 7 years old. So I've been in the workforce many times, multiple jobs. I was a single parent for a long time. So I've been in the workforce since I was 7 years old. And January 12th, my doctor told me, you can't work. Because at that time I was a meat cutter at Smith's. And he said dizziness.
Not January 12th. Oh, January 12th of 2000.
January 12th of this last year.
Okay, January 12th of 2023. Okay, good.
And so, because I went to my doctor in December, I said, I'm dizzy. I went to him in January, it had gotten worse, and he said, I'm going to put you on short-term disability because I was a meat cutter at Smith's.
Yeah.
And he said, slippery floors, sharp knives, and dizziness don't mix.
No.
And so here I go from somebody usually working 2, 3 jobs or 2 or 3 businesses to not working, to not being able to leave my house, to not, and it was rough. It was really rough. And I was praying, my family was praying, our church was praying, and we weren't getting any answers. And in July of this year, I was finally diagnosed with vestibular migraines. And so they wanted to put me on a medication called the Jovi, but my insurance wouldn't approve it. And so I had to try these other 2 medications first that made things worse. It was horrendous. And he said, well, since you've tried these, we can now approve the Jovi. And he told me, so it may not work for 3 months. It can take 3 to 4 months for full effect. And I said, what are the side effects? I'm very sensitive to medication. What are the side effects? Oh, no side effects. No side effects. No problem. Okay. So it was a shot in the abdomen, subcutaneous shot that I gave myself. And I took it July 21st. And he was right. There was no change, none whatsoever. And August 21st, I took my second shot. And that evening, I had a spot this big. It was about 6 inches diameter on my stomach that was swollen and red and hot. And it itched. It was horrendous. And I called my doctor the next morning and I said, excuse me. And he's like, oh, yeah, some people have that side effect. And I said, I told you, I'm sensitive. What other side effects?
Yeah.
And he kept trying to tell me there were no side effects. I'm like, dude, I already got the first side effects. What are the other side effects?
Exactly.
And so I was supposed to take my second shot, September 21st would be my third shot. September 21st would be my third shot. By the grace of God, Kim and Kurt Duncan, some of you know them, they had an event at their home, September 15th. They had a dinner. And I asked my daughter, I said, hey, will you go with me? I really think I should be there. And she's like, okay. So she drove me out there. And the best part about cooking, Kim, is the lesson part, right? I love hanging out. I love seeing their new home, seeing people I hadn't seen for a while, but I had my notebook. And I was ready. Right? I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to get the good stuff. And so I'm waiting for that. And they start telling the story about how they knew to shut their business down, to move from, they had a huge business. They still have a huge business. But because they were so connected to the Lord told them to start shutting it down and moving everything online. 1 week before the world closed, they had totally transitioned to online.
Yep.
They didn't miss a beat, not a single beat. And as I sit there listening to their story about, what they did, the decisions they made, the things they did, and every time they would say, the Lord told me, or intuition, I had this feeling I should, or, during my meditation, I was like, every time they would say something, it was like a gong going off in my head. And I realized I haven't meditated for a long time. And I'm like, okay, Lord, okay, I'll meditate. The very next day, September 16th, the Goddards had an open house at their new home up on 3 Falls Drive. Now, my husband and I lived not too far from that. And so while they were building that, we went up there all the time on our Harley and walked through it. Oh, I wonder what this is going to be. Oh, I wonder what this is going to be. It's so cool. So cool. And so now I get to go through it, finish. Shoot, yeah, I'm there, right?
Yeah, right. Heck yeah.
And so I get there and they had an entire room set up for meditation. An entire room. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I won't miss it again. Sunday morning, he woke me up at 3:30 like he had been for months. And I got my notebook and my pen and I went out and I sat at the counter and I said, okay, Lord, what do you want to tell me? And the first thing he told me was, I love you. The second thing he told me was don't ever miss another meditation day. Don't ever miss another moment. And the third thing he told me was take your LIV.
Mm.
And then he told me some other things as well. And I was like, okay. And that was on a Sunday morning. And my husband got paid Friday. And so I went to my husband and I said, we got to do doTERRA this Friday. And he's like, okay, we'll make it happen. And so I made my order Friday morning. He got paid. I made my order. But that week, I was like, man, Lord, so we're talking 10 months at this point. 10 months I've been dealing with this.
10 months of you dealing with the nausea, the dizziness, I can't walk. I'm like 10 months of this.
Yeah.
And of, obviously the emotional aspect of it, like the loan. I mean, it's not just right. We talk about health, but 10 months of some real things.
Rough.
Yeah.
Rough. And my short-term disability ended in July. I couldn't go back to work. I couldn't do anything. So now this girl who for 50 years, 49 years because I'm 56, but for 49 years has been bringing in a paycheck, working multiple jobs, running multiple businesses when I got older, has no income coming in.
Yeah.
And so that hit me too. Now I know that I'm the female and I've worked really hard on stepping into that feminine energy, of being the nurturer. I don't have to be the provider anymore. My husband and I have been married 21 years, but I still had that in my head.
Sure.
You're not making an income. You're not contributing, And so, it was so much. So that week I was like, Lord, if you could heal me in a month, that would be a miracle. That would be so incredible. And then by Thursday, I was like, man, if you could do it in a week, if you could do it in a week, Lord, please, a week. And so we went Friday morning, we picked up the product, and then we went out to lunch. And I took my vitamins with my lunch. And by that evening, I was like, I'm not nauseous. And I just walked down the hall without holding onto the wall. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then when I laid down that night to go to bed, I didn't feel like I was falling off the bed. I went right to sleep, slept really well. And I was like, no way. 1 dose? Seriously, Lord, 1 dose? And the next morning I got up and we've got some outside animals and I had bought myself some walking poles, those balance poles, in July, because I was like, I'm not being a prisoner anymore. I'm getting out of the house. And it took me an hour to walk a mile.
Wow.
By the end of September, I had worked up to about 3 miles. I could do 3 miles in an hour. I was proud of myself. I'm getting out of the house. I had my little balance poles. And so I went out to feed the birds and the cats and stuff. And I always go out and just spend the moment with God.
Sure.
In the morning. Because there's so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And I'd look at the trees and the grass, and I would just be so grateful. Thank you, Lord. So grateful. And that morning, I was out there and I just dropped my poles and I'm like standing here. And I'm not falling over. It was like, oh my Lord. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And I came back in and I sat down and I got out my journal and I started writing. And I have to remember that it's not a monologue, it's a dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make space for God to answer us. We can't just keep talking at him. We need to move space, create that space where God can talk back. And since then, I've been symptom free. I'm driving. I'm back to working both of my businesses. In fact, you're the first person outside of the family to hear this. The Epoch Times has contacted me and asked me to be a contributing author.
Yo! Oh my gosh, congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Gosh.
Thank you.
Things are so I want to rewind a little bit, right? Because heavy story. I mean, let's it's so, because I know my own health journey, right? My own health journey, and I talk about it now like it's like, oh yeah, it happened, you know, right, I'm here, hunky dory, right? But what we don't often, you know, it was hard, right? I mean, it was like whatever your version of trials, and I'm sure other people on here, other people watching this recording, you have your own health trials and your own health struggles and your own things. And so when you boil it down to, you know, to and you were talking about LLV, right? So for those of you that don't know LLV, or those of you who are watching, so LLV, what we're talking about is daily supplementation. Really, ultimately, we're talking about micronutrition. So you're talking about your daily supplementation, your antioxidants, your essential fatty acids, essential fatty acids. So all the things that you need in order for your daily micronutrition in order for your body to respond. Now, so if we're looking at what you went through, you said you went through 10 months, and give me a time frame. You said the next day after taking your first dose.
Very first day.
Yeah, very first dose. Now, how long?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So after that, I went back and started filling in some holes.
Okay.
So in November of 2022, we had gone to half a dose of LLV.
So prior to December when this is what happened, right?
Yes.
So you're talking about now November, you started connecting the dots. Okay, November, go ahead.
So, well, you know, September after I was healed, I'm like, okay, what happened? I knew I wasn't taking it, but I wanted to see the timeline. And so I pulled up my doTERRA and I went into the back office to see what did I order. And in November, and I remember having the conversation, you know, are these really helping us? We were spending, between him and I and everything that we were taking, we're spending about $250 to $300 a month on different products. And we're like, okay, let's go to a half dose. You know, are these really helping, right?
Yeah.
So we went to a half dose in November. December is when my symptoms started showing up. December, I took another half dose, and in January, I was taking none. But I did not connect the dots.
Wow.
I didn't go, what has changed? Oh, I quit taking LLV. You know, because life happens.
Yeah.
And we were like, we can't afford these.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're really helping us or not. And so we stopped taking them. So I did the math. I went back and I got all of my copays. We have good insurance right now. You know, if this would have happened a few years ago when we didn't have insurance, I don't know what we would have done. So we have good insurance. And I figured out how much it cost with my copays, lost wages. I didn't even include speaking events or anything like that I couldn't go to that I'm now booking again, you know, all of that. Over $21,000 is what it cost me. And if all I would have done was just cut back to just the LLV at $80.50 a month, $21,000 buys a hell of a lot of LLV.
Yeah, right. And, you know, and so connecting those dots, you know, because obviously, you know, lots of people went through COVID. Lots of people went through tough times. Lots of people have tough times in health. I mean, does this give you a different perspective? How many people you think give up $80 in supplementation or $100 in supplementation because they think it's not doing anything, or they'd rather spend that $100 in eating out? Let's say we can get 2 dinners eating out, you know, with our spouse before that $100 is gone a month, right? But, you know, because you probably meet people, you talk to people. I know I talk to people all the time, but that justification to let go of something is it's not like it's an unheard of thing. It's not like what you did is like all of a sudden this revolutionary decision. No, it's probably a decision that people make every month, right? Every day when it comes time to their health.
Well, and because it's working on the inside, because it's not in your face. My husband and I, January on, didn't even realize it, but I have arthritis. I didn't even know it. Didn't even know it. And all of a sudden I ache, I hurt, my knees hurt, my hands hurt, my shoulders hurt, right? My hips were hurting. And I'm like, well, I'm getting older and standing on this concrete floor all day, right? Working in the cold because I was a meat cutter. And so you rationalize it away. We had our first winter storm, a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
No pain.
Wow.
No pain. A little bit of stiffness in the morning, but it used to be, I would just walk around the house like a little old lady because I was cold and I hurt and it just, and I'm like, and my husband and I would go for a walk every night after dinner. And he had started having to roll his feet out after work and stuff because his feet were hurting. Again, well, getting older, right?
Yeah.
And he started the very next month, he started LLV. I'm like, babe, you've got to do this. And so he started taking the vitamins. And he's also we're both taking Deep Blue Complex as well, and PB Assist and Nitomax. And he has great energy. He gets up at 4:30 in the morning, goes to work, comes home, we have dinner, we go for a walk, and he has a coworker that he works with that goes home and falls asleep on the couch. He's so tired all the time. And we go for a walk every night. The other night we were walking and he's like, my feet don't hurt anymore. Because he would get a sharp pain in his heel and we weren't sure if he had a bone spur or, if his Achilles was maybe pulling off of the calcaneus bone or what. And now he's like, I don't have pain. It's all gone.
It's incredible. You talked about the insides, right? On our cellular level. It is easy for us to look at the scale or look at our dress size or put a shirt on we once used to wear and all of a sudden it's fuller, right? Or we're trying to buckle our pants and we're like, I don't remember being this tight. It's easy for us to, again, equate health to those visuals, to those things. And that's one thing I've been studying a ton about when it comes time to health on a cellular level. When you start to look at health on a cellular level, you're dealing with a whole different group of dynamics. And I just want to bring this up real quick because I want to show people here. These are a set of books that I reference to all the time, killer information, Why We Get Sick, Outlive, Glucose Revolution. All of these talk about how on a cellular level, based on nutrition, based on the way we eat, even as much as exercise, all of what's going on a cellular level is really what Peter Attia calls, or what the specialist calls, all-cause mortality. It has a bigger impact on all-cause mortality, meaning that when we're dying of things such as cancer, things is heart disease, anything that has to do with neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, those types of things, dementia. Anything when it comes to foundational diseases such as type 2 diabetes, and of course, sugar is an easy one. But there's so much information now that is referenced to how our cells actually are impacted, by what we do, our lifestyle, food, and how that is actually what is end up creating the results of the problems, right? Start from on that cellular level. So yeah, I think it's so wonderful as you're sharing your story for you to be able to make the connection and realize, wow, this is what deep down, this is what your body was screaming for. But because of money, because of Christmas, because of life situation, we say, you know what? I can't afford it. I can't do it. And then you pay the ultimate physical price, right? And that's one thing that I have noticed in my own life is that when I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna stop working on this, doing this, because who knows what it's actually doing, right? I can't see it, I can't measure it. And then all of a sudden we start to look at, well, how am I actually responding with my sleep, my energy, waking up? Do I need twice as much caffeine as I needed before? Does it even work anymore? You said like foot pain, joint pain, walking around. The first winter storm hits, it's not even really a winter storm, right? It starts to get chilly and you're like, it's hurting my bones, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah. And I didn't have any of that. And neither did Lawrence. He used to drink a Monster and a caffeinated drink, that Mio energy drink.
Yeah.
He would drink that all day long, and now he doesn't anymore. And I cannot say enough about the gratitude that I have. And when I was having my dialogue with the Lord, and this is what he told me. That may not be what he tells someone else. I don't know. I'm just sharing my story, my experience. And my experience was take your LLV. He didn't say take your Kirkland signature vitamins, because we thought, well, these are cheaper. We'll try these. Talk to a pharmacist, talk to the doctor, all of that. He said, take your LLV, take your doTERRA LLV.
Yeah.
And I know that doTERRA didn't heal me. It was the product that my body needed to heal itself, because that's the way God created us. God created us to heal ourselves. That doesn't mean we can be immortal. That doesn't mean we get to live forever, sickness free or anything like that. It just says that when I get cut or I get hurt or I get sick, my body is designed to regenerate and rebuild itself. And doTERRA has the building blocks to make that happen.
I love that.
That's my message.
I love that. And I think that is ultimately, obviously that's what your story expresses, that your story mirrors that. It is. And I think that's what I think we do the same thing with food, right? If I'm buying something off the dollar menu and I'm over here investing a little bit more money because I understand from an ingredient level what this is going to do, there's a different thing that happens inside so that my body can heal itself, right? If we want to invest. Same thing if people were looking at real estate investment. I know you dabbled in that for a while, right? You got to invest your money smart in the right places. Otherwise, that same amount of money in this real estate gig might not do what you want it to do, right? Well, and I think our bodies are the same way. Go ahead.
Well, I want to liken it to having a tenant in your property.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because we had long-term rentals, we had tenants in our property, and if you took a little bit of time and vetted that tenant and made sure that they were the best tenant for your property, then it was smooth sailing. If you just took the first one that came along, if we were desperate to rent the property and we just wanted to get someone in there, it would cost us thousands of dollars down the road. And it's the same with our health. If we just get whatever because we can afford it or we're desperate or whatever, we pay for it down the road. With our health, my ex-husband, Fitzgerald Peterson, is dying of cancer right now. I don't think he'll finish the year. And he was a firefighter for a lot of years. He's Aaron's dad. And, I haven't been married to him for a very long time. And I know how he is because he has started telling everybody, get tested, get tested. 1 year made the difference in his life. If he would have been tested 1 year earlier, he wouldn't have had this problem. They would have caught it. They would have been able to deal with it. I want to go a step further because I was married to him and I knew him, and say, if he would have taken care of himself, because I remember probably about 10 years ago talking with him and looking at him and going, he's not well. You can just see it, because I didn't see him every day.
Sure.
And I remember thinking, he's not well. Something's wrong. But he wouldn't go to the doctor. And so, but at that point, when somebody's looking at you and going, something's wrong, sometimes it's too late then. And so my husband and I got together and said, we will always take our lifelong vitality pack.
Mm.
If we have to, we don't eat out very often, but whatever it takes, we will not skip that because I don't want cancer. I had cancer as a child. I don't want it again.
Right.
My mom died of dementia in my arms in this very room. I don't want that for me.
Yeah.
And my husband is now taking the MetaPower. He's doing LLV. You talked about glucose spikes and stuff like that. I started doing some research on that. And because he had been diagnosed as pre-diabetic, I called the doctor. I love research. I called the doctor and I said, hey, can I get a glucose monitor? And he's like, yeah, sure. So went, picked it up and started stabbing everybody. Come here, let me see what you're doing. So as soon as the kids would get up at, that morning, I'm like, come here, I'm going to stab you. And so I monitored it, on all of us for a while. My glucose, all I was taking at this time was just the Lifelong Vitality Pack, just the vitamins.
Yeah.
And my glucose was it didn't have those big spikes. So just the vitamins had helped regulate my glucose to a degree.
Yeah.
My son and my daughter had those pretty big spikes and then drops. My husband was like, I have to have caffeine because I have that drop and I'm driving. I can't be tired. Yeah. And so we started, when he had his 3 days off, I started monitoring him. We did 1 day without any MetaPower or any apple cider vinegar, no walks or anything, that you've talked about. And we monitored it. So not only did he have a spike, but it was elevated for much longer period. He went up to 152 or something like that. And then it took, at the end, after 2 hours, he was still at 125.
Wow.
And then he started taking the MetaPower, and I think the highest he got, eating the same food, we tried to make it as controlled as possible.
Yeah, of course.
I think his highest was like 113.
Same food.
Same food, yeah.
Food using
within an hour, he was back to right at 100, right back to 100.
Wow. I just think what you guys are doing and what you're talking about, you mentioned the story about your ex-husband and I know my dad, he very quickly. I mean, I remember when I heard he had diabetes and he lost his legs. He lost his first leg literally 2 years later. And then his other one, I think 4 or 5 years later. And it was like, it was so fast, so dramatic. And because we don't take the time to tackle it before it gets there. In fact, if I remember right, you told me a story how you didn't even know that Lawrence, your current husband, had any pre-diabetic problems or anything. It was only because you went to the hospital to get a different test. Turns out, by the way, you also have this, right? If I remember right.
Yeah, it was. That's exactly how it happened. And I think it was God orchestrated.
For sure.
I think it was, and I, when I first talked to him, he's like, I don't know, do we have the money? And I said, stop right there. Stop right there. Yeah. I said, seriously, after what we just went through with me? And I said, I have a lot of plans for you. I have a lot of beaches. I have a goal to walk on 50 beaches. And I've got my little book here and I'm writing them down, all the places I want to go.
That's awesome.
And I said, and this is my bucket list. And you can see it goes for a while. These are the beaches I want to walk on. And I said, I want to walk on them, not roll on them. I do not want to be pushing you in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Plans for you.
Yeah.
And I said, and they don't include them cutting pieces off of you because you're diabetic.
Right.
I said, I will not tolerate it.
Yeah.
And so he takes his.
I love it. Awesome. Well, so I want to show people so that we are talking about, so that people know what we're talking about here. Number one, this right here is the LLV that she is referring to. So it's the lifelong vitality. Okay. Is specifically what she's referring to, promoting general wellness, vitality. You have antioxidants. These are the 3 different bottles. It's a daily supplement. You're taking multiple pills in order to get everything your body needs. And there, so the research, the ingredient, I mean, everything that is in here that your body needs is, you're going to love it. Obviously, based on what Jeanie's talked about. One of the things that I think when
I got to stop you just for a minute.
Yeah.
I just saw something. Oh my gosh. Okay, so see like the third dot from the bottom where it says supports lung and respiratory health? See that?
Yes.
Remember when I said I had cancer before?
Yeah.
I had lung cancer.
Mm.
Okay. And for a long time, every morning I would wake up and it was like this, just this smoker's cough. It was just this dry, hacking cough. I'd cough so hard, I'd almost throw up. I'd have this dry heaves. In fact, we had some friends over one time and they were like, is your wife okay? And Laura's like, yeah, that just happens every morning.
Mm.
So I started having that problem again in June and July.
Wow.
I have not had it. I just realized I have not had that problem since I started taking this again.
Again, I want to go back to what Jeanie, so that we're being clear here, right? This is probably one of the greatest, I guess, lies that we unfortunately fall trapped to, and we believe ourselves. We don't acknowledge what's wrong until the physical symptoms of it are too late. Just like your ex-husband, right? He's at a point where had they caught it a year, the test, right, we wouldn't be at this point. So when we're tired, when we can't sleep, we're having breathing issues, our joints, pain, all these things are going on. At that point, it's our body literally breaking down. It's our body breaking down. Yet when we can take the time and realize, okay, I want to head off this problem. This is what we're talking about right here, guys. Micronutrition. I'm not talking about macro, which is our fats, our proteins, carbohydrates, fiber. That's a different conversation. We're talking about micronutrition that works on a cellular level. So when people say, I mean, I eat good. Like when I say I eat good, I eat really good. I'm very clean. I'm very particular. But even with as particular and clean as I eat, I cannot get everything that I need from this quality supplementation. So you need it. We all need it. And the impact that it can have. Jeanie, you're giving me goosebumps. The impact that we can, I mean, we should all journal this. Like we should all come with a journal and start writing it down and saying, okay, this is what I feel today. Now what do I feel based on some of the changes? You mentioned your husband, right? Now that he's not spiking at a normal 150, how is that affecting his all the other days of life, whether his energy, his pain, his sleep, being tired, all these different things, that he's now kind of at a good 120, going back to 100 much quicker. So all of these things are incredibly important when we talk about cellular health. Another thing, so when Jeanie was talking about here, this right here is the MetaPower Assist that she was mentioning. It had two main ingredients in here. You have berberine, you have mulberry. Now, the berberine, again, for those of you that love research, if you Google berberine versus metformin and also versus Ozempic, you can look at some of the studies that they're done and how actually this right here is testing phenomenal against those things that are designed on a medical level. I mean, most of you guys have probably heard of metformin, right? And how and what it's used for: insulin resistance, glucose, mitigating glucose spikes, that sort of thing. Well, berberine has had phenomenal success with the very same thing. So this is what you're going to find in your MetaPower Assist, plus your mulberry, of course. And so when Jeanie was talking about doing tests, this alone will mitigate your spike by about 42%. Eating what Jeanie said, eating the exact same thing, just utilizing simple things like walking, ACV, and then utilizing things like MetaPower Assist. So when we talk about things on supplements that we take, it's not because, oh man, yes, do we want the inches to go down? Yes, do we want the scale to change? Yes, do we want our skin to be more vibrant? But I think, Jeanie, you probably, I think your story epitomizes it best for anyone that is probably, let's just say, at the ages that we start to approach. I remember when I turned 44, I hated turning 44. I felt like I was like, this sucks. I don't want to turn 44 because I felt it. Yet doing all the things I'm doing, when I turned 45, I was like, yes, 45, 46, watch out, here I come, right? But what happens realistically is I think we all start to get to a certain age where we start to say, I'm getting older. and then we justify the pain, like what you were saying, right? We justify the pain, we justify the dizziness, we justify the aches, we justify the tired, we justify the sleep, we justify all these things, and we blame it on aging, which is part of the process. But can we do things? And I want to say this, like, you meant sometimes we think in order to fix our life, I got to be going to the gym every day. It's got to be terrible. It's got to be miserable. And you're talking about what took you a mile it took you a mile to walk and that sort of thing. But it wasn't necessarily that made the change. It was the simple action of saying, you know what, my cells, the Lord God is speaking to me. I am lacking inside here. So I'm going to take some supplementation. And that in itself allowed you to be like, all right, 1 mile, let's see what 3 miles feels like, right? We can push ourselves further. So this idea that, when we're sitting there and we're thinking, okay, I'm tired, I'm not feeling good, I lack no energy. I think that one of the hardest things for people to do is to say, that's it, I got to willpower it to the gym tomorrow. And they're skipping, mitigating glucose spikes. They're skipping supplementation. They're skipping food. They're skipping the walk, the simple walk, and the little things, and realizing all of that, you combine all of that, you're going to make some big changes to allow you to conquer much bigger mountains, right? Wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm back to walking 4 to 5 miles a day. And, I love being outside. I grew up on a dairy farm in Washington, and, I used to ride my horse all the time, and I just love being outside. And so it's such a blessing, especially this time of year, all the colors and everything. It's just so beautiful. And like I said, my husband and I go for a walk in the evening. So I'm usually doing 2 or 3 walks a day. I get 12 to 15,000 steps a day easily. And there are some days that I don't, because my daughter had surgery yesterday, so I didn't
Right.
put so many steps in. But
That's got to be pretty huge from where the 10 months were, right? 10 months,
absolutely.
not a whole lot, right? In fact, I think what was it? You about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, you said, I'm outside chopping wood,
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the Sunday after, so I started taking the LLV September 22nd. And that Sunday, I went out and chopped wood for over an hour. We had gotten a bunch of wood, and we have a fire pit. And I'm like, I told my husband, I'm out chopping wood. And he's like, ah! And I'm like, no, it's okay. It's okay. I'm doing great. I'm doing awesome.
I love it.
The next day I was back out there. I chopped. So the wood pile is about it's probably almost a full cord of wood. It's 4 feet tall and probably about 7 feet long.
Wow.
And I actually broke the axe. I told him I need a new axe. And he's like, I'm not getting you a new axe. You're not supposed to be chopping wood.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. That's how good you're feeling. So real quick, Jeanie, Chloe asked a question here. So repeat, what products are you taking currently? Like, what are the supplements you're taking?
Okay, so I'm currently taking the Lifelong Vitality Pack.
Okay.
Also take a PB Assist.
Okay.
And Terrazyme.
Okay.
And I also take Mitomax and the Deep Blue Complex.
Wonderful.
And so those are what I take. And then I also started taking, so I don't remember the exact date, but when my husband started taking LLV, we also got the MetaPower Advantage.
Okay. Collagen.
Assist and the beadlets and the soft gels. And so we just added the MetaPower probably a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
So I'll share real quick on when we talk about cellular level. This right here, the collagen that she's talking about, is the MetaPower Advantage. This is fantastic stuff. When we're talking about cellular healing, cellular level, specifically NMN, your NAD plus, all of this right here, those specific things dramatically increase what's your body's ability to produce natural energy, which is your ATP. So NAD is the precursor for NMN, which helps produce your body's energy. So this right here is fantastic on a cellular level. Another thing that she mentioned was the PB Assist. Now, I am a big fan of gut health. If you guys have watched me, know me enough, you know, it's because it has a lot to do with my story and the importance of balancing your microbiome. Now, the PB Assist that doTERRA previously had before September when they released their new product was great stuff, great stuff. Now what they have, it's literally 4 times better. And not just 4 times the amount of what you have in terms of just the bacteria for your microbiome, but you're talking about the diversity for your microbiome. And you want it to be diverse because what's happening is that microbiome, what they do is they create metabolites. It's a chemical process that ends up in affecting your immune system, your brain, all kinds of different things. So getting your hands on making sure you're taking, and that one's called the PB Restore. And that is a fantastic product. In fact, they were doing some comparisons of that in some of the top probiotic products on the market. And I mean, I'm telling you, it is hands down one of the best you can find out there. It is incredible. And not just does it have probiotics, it has prebiotics, it has postbiotics. You have your phthalates, which no other probiotic system has on the market with those phthalates. Typically, those you do separately. So you're talking top notch. So definitely look into that. Also, the Deep Blue Complex, when she's talking about, you know, the soreness, the aches, your Deep Blue Complex is going to really handle that kind of stuff. So that is some good stuff there. Good stuff. I know when I'm extra sore from exercising, working out, yeah, I'm taking some Deep Blue Complex for sure. For sure. So with that being said, we're approaching our hour now, Jeanie. How do you want to leave this? What if there's a message you want to portray, if there's something you would love for people to connect with, to understand, like knowing what you know now, right? Knowing right now, the Jeanie today, what would you go back and tell that Jeanie back in November when you're looking at, well, we'll just cut back, right? Or in December or in January, what would you, what do you want to say?
The first is, remember that when you talk to God, it's a dialogue, not a monologue.
Ooh,
and I had stopped meditating at that time as well. I used to meditate all the time, and then I had stopped. And so commune with God on a daily basis, absolutely. That would be the first thing. And the second thing would be, health is lifelong. It's not a moment in time. And so it was really funny. I was at the store the other day, and these kids go running by, and the lady says, "Man, I wish I could bottle that energy." And I said, "You can. It has been done, and I can help you with that."
I like it. I love it.
So yeah, we used to use the trees and the leaves and everything. That's what God created for us. And then man, in our egotistical mania, decided to do modern medicine. And there were some good things, penicillin, things like that.
Sure.
And the message that I got from God is, it started as something good. It has become something evil. We need to move away from it and back to what God created for us. And so that's my second message. First of all, talk to God, commune with God, read his book, read his love letter to us, your Bible. It's just phenomenal. It tells you what to do in there. And then the second is, take care of your body at a cellular level. It's not just what the scale says. And remember that you are loved, and that caretakers are great, but they want to be put out of business. When I found this stuff out, that I found out about the gut and stuff, I thought, man, if I could have gone back in time, I think the end of my mom's life would have been totally. And so what I do today impacts my future. I think that's really important to remember. So first thing, talk to God every day. Second thing, take care of your health on a cellular level. And the third is, spend time with family. Spend time with family every day. I don't care. My youngest is 25, and I talk to him every day, you know, and if it goes a day without texting or seeing or talking to him, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, I'm gonna come see you if you don't get back to me like within the next 30 minutes, you know. And we don't know when our last moment is. I don't know if I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning. I don't know if I'm gonna go to bed tonight. You know, when my mom was nearing the end of her life, we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming, and we still didn't know the exact moment. Until I was sitting next to her bed, holding her hand, reading to her. And I climbed up in bed with her and I held her. And she was gone. And I'm grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that. And I don't know, I was a driver's ed teacher for a lot of years. And every time my kids would leave the house, I'd be like, oh my God, please just bring them home. Just bring them home. And my husband has driven hundreds of thousands of miles all over the country. And he may go to the store tomorrow and not come home. I don't know. And so I want to live my best life every day. And if that means setting aside a little bit of money so that I can take a product that I truly believe was God inspired, that I truly believe God helped to develop, so that it could help so many people all around the world, I'm going to do that. And nothing will stop me.
I love it. I love it. Jeanie, thank you so much. What a beautiful message of hope. You know, and I hope that tonight, I hope that for those of you that are on live, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that are watching this recording, I hope you can hear that, right? I hope that resonates with you. I hope you can see and you know that no matter where we are, right? I look back, I remember, Jeanie, I remember when my wife, you know, said, oh man, Jeanie's struggling, right? You know, I remember when she was talking about, you know, where you were physically and what you couldn't do. And that was not the Jeanie I remembered. And now, you know, you're getting back to the Jeanie of old. And I think that that's where people lose hope, is they think that they can't get back what they once had, right? Because of time, because of age. And so what I love most is you have a message of hope. And because of that message of hope, it makes you more connected, obviously, to God, you know, and to meditation, to your family, to the things, and then obviously in turn to your health and feeding your body on a cellular level. And so I love it. So Jeanie, thank you so much for being here. Guys, thank you so much for being on. I would absolutely love to, you know, you can invite you guys in the future if you guys are interested in sharing your story, or if you know anybody that has a story such as, maybe it's not even as, you know, big as Jeanie's. I know I've heard some of you guys and some incredible stories. Even myself, I think sometimes, you know, I share my story. People are like, Philip, I've heard yours over and over again, right? But I think I'll just say this: people need to hear stories like this. People need to know that we don't have to just we don't have to be victims of age. We don't have to be victims of COVID. We don't have to be victims of, you know, oh man, I can't afford this, so the price is this, right? We can find ways to figure out, how can I get what I need in my life so I can keep moving forward. And if there's any message, my gosh, during this holiday season, if there's any message that the world, I think, needs more than anything, is hope, right? That we can recover, that we can move forward, that we can create together, that tomorrow can be better than what it is today in all aspects of life, whether spirituality, whether health, or whether family, right? So thank you again, Jeanie. Thank you so much for being here. I love you guys. Have a beautiful evening, and we'll see you together in the next 2 Wednesdays. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.